Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Dmitry and I've created this video for those who want to start contributing to Angular or Angular material, but don't know where to start, how to start, or for those who for whatever reason think that it is too difficult. So this video is called to give you some guidance and convince you that it is not as hard as it might seem to be. I'm going to show you how to pick proper issues on the GitHub, how to sign the contribution license agreement with Google, how to set up the project locally, how to debug it, how to make your first pull request, and what to do if someone from Angular Material Core team asks you for changes. This tutorial turned out to be quite long one, so please don't forget to use time codes in the video description. It will help you to easier and faster navigate through the video. If you have never even thought to start contributing to open source projects like Angular Material, I would highly encourage you to do it. And let me maybe try to motivate at least some of you. Just think about it. You have a chance to improve the library that is being used by thousands or even maybe millions of other developers around the world, including you, by the way. Why not improve the tool which you use every day, and why not make it more stable and awesome? Then, exploring the source code allows you better understand how library works under the hood. You can find different hidden features which were not yet documented, or you can find some useful patterns you didn't know before. For me personally, it was really significant boost when I started to investigate source code of Angular and Angular Material, so I would highly encourage you also to do it. And some of you may reasonably say that, okay, it sounds pretty cool, it makes sense, but nobody pays me for this kind of work. And yes, you won't be paid directly, but look, if in your CV I will read that you collaborate on Angular Material and I can find your commits there, be sure I will call you back. So indirectly, it will definitely pay off. And if I could somehow change your mind and motivated you to give it a try, I'm super happy about that. If not, well, then motivation of people is not my calling, and you can smash this like button and go enjoy other videos on the YouTube. For those who are still interested, please stay tuned and we are moving to next chapter. So we're going to start from the official Angular Material documentation page, and here at the right top corner you can see this button, which actually the link which leads us to official GitHub repo for Angular Material. And on this page we have to accomplish a couple of things. First, we have to pick an appropriate issue we're going to work with, and we have to fork this repo into our GitHub account. But let's do one thing at a time, and let me quickly show you how you could find an appropriate bug or some small feature which you could implement for Angular Material Library. Everything what community reports like bugs, different discussions or feature suggestions, everything is ended up here inside the issues tab. And there are a myriad of them actually, and almost every issue is labeled with appropriate tag. In GitHub they called labels, but we are not interested in all of them, of course. We are interested in a couple of labels, and I will show you the first one, and the first one called help wanted. When Angular Material Core team needs some help from community, they label some issues with this tag, and if you click on it, you will see the a huge list of issues which might be a good candidate, yeah, for taking this issue and resolve it. Also, you can see some important tags like P4, P3. This is priority. P4, it's something with a which has low priority. P3, it's more like important issue, and so on. But I would like to also show you another label which is good fit for those who does a contribution to Angular material for the first time. And this tag is named like good first issue. So you can see from the description already that this issue is a good place to start for first time contributors to the project. Usually those are some minor bugs which yeah, very good entry point for the starting collaboration. So I can click on it and I will get all good first issues, so I can, you know, pick one and start to work. For this video, I choose this bug with material slider. The bug happens when we set max value to 0. We will reproduce this bug a little bit later in this video, but yeah, you just have to read what is wrong with some certain component, read about the bug, steps, how to reproduce it, and before you start to work on this issue, there are a couple of good practices, so to say, and they are very simple. First of all, just ask if someone already started to work on it. So maybe someone is working on this issue, and again, you don't want to do the same work twice. And if no one is working on it, just let people in the community know that you take this issue, you will resolve it, so you will be working on it, like I did with this message, and I got like answer from someone from Angular Material Core, like feel free to start. So once you have the issue, the next step would be forking the Angular components library into your account. So forking, it's kind of replication of existing state of this repo into your account. So you will kind of clone everything, code, history of the commits, everything will be cloned into your GitHub account, and you can do with it literally anything. So in order to fork this repo, you have to click this button called fork, obviously, and you have to choose some, you know, account where you're going to fork it. I will fork it into my personal GitHub account, and after some time you will see that this library was forked to your account. The next step would be copying this everything into your local machine. So let's do it. So I will grab this link to my GitHub repo, and then I will go to terminal, yeah, and I have the open source folder. You can choose any folder on your computer, whatever you like, and we just do git clone, and then I paste the link to my forked Angular material. So I press enter, and it will take some time until we clone everything. And once it is done, we can open it with our VS Code or any other editor you prefer. So I will navigate to components, and I'm going to open it with Visual Studio Code. And finally, we have everything cloned, and let me quickly onboard you, and I will show you where you can find the most important stuff, like source code for some certain component or module. And yeah, this everything located under the source file. Most of the important stuff are located here. You can see here the source code for CDK, source code for CDK experimental, Angular material, and here you can see folders for every module or component like autocomplete, page, and so on. Also very important, this dev app. This is actually the application which we will be using as well. This is the Angular app which has all Angular components in place, and you can interact with them. You will see it a little bit later. Okay, regarding source code, I think that's it. Now let's have a look at this batch of MD files. I would suggest you to start with contributing MD file. Let's press Command Shift V in order to have it more readable. This file, I would say it's a very good starting point for those who just starts to collaborate on Angular material. Yeah, you can find all necessary links. You can read all of these sections on your own. Some of them we will cover during this video. But yeah, just take some time. It's not too big. Overall, it might take only 5 minutes for you to read everything like that. Like code of conduct, this is just how you have to behave in the community. Everything boils down actually to not be an asshole and be just a kind and a nice person. And another important thing actually, which I would like to highlight in this file, it's signing the CLA. CLA is located at the very bottom. This is the contributor license agreement. Without signing this agreement, your pull request will not be accepted. In order to sign this agreement, most of you would need to follow this link. It is for individuals. So just click this link and you'll see either something like that, or for you it might be slightly different. It might be some form. I don't remember already what I had because I already signed this contributor license agreement, but I don't remember what was my first screen. I think it was form where you have to enter your emails which are associated with your GitHub account, and you have to provide your name obviously and GitHub username, and you just have to click I agree. And one small remark, make sure that one of these emails which you have entered here is also applied to your GitHub config. So just open your terminal and check that inside git config your user email is one of what you have entered right there. Yeah, this is very important. Otherwise, I don't think there's something worth to mention. So I go back, and the next stop would be probably this section from contributing MD, just which explains how to submit your pull request. So some of those things we already done. So we found the issue, we signed the contributor license agreement, and we have to create a separate branch. So let's do it. I open terminal, git checkout, and I will name it slider max value incorrectly updated. I decided to name it like that, so I create a separate branch, and then we see that we have to implement this everything. We have to follow coding rules, so this is also something you have to check before you start to implement. You can find this file also right here. Where is this? Coding standards. Here we go. This is what you have to check, and then we have to run all test suites as described in the developer documentation. And this developer documentation, it's this dev environment.md file, so we can open, and here we can see some instructions how to run locally Angular material library, how to run tests, how to run dev application, and so on. So first of all, make sure that you have Node and Yarn installed. Then we have to install also Bazel. Bazel, this is a build tool which is being used for this library. And if you are user of macOS, you can install Bazel by running brew. So you just type brew install Bazel and just wait some time until it will be everything installed, and actually you are ready to go. Then the next step would be install node npm dependencies. So I will run yarn. It will take also some time. So finally, npm dependencies are installed. So now we can either build our library in release mode by using yarn build command, or what I'm going to actually run, it's yarn dev app command, which will start to serve our dev application. This is what I mentioned a few minutes ago. So it will take again some time in order to build everything, and then in a few seconds we will see that application was built and it is being served at this URL. So I can copy it and open somewhere here. So here we go. This is application for developers. Here you can find all features provided by Angular CDK, by Angular material. You can see everything right here. You can play around with this. And also it has a separate menu where you can find use case for every component, like input, list, layout, whatever. But I need to find slider. Where it is. Here we go. Slider. And here you can see slider with different states, different possible configurations. And yeah, let's jump back to our issue and read one more time what's the problem with this component. So we will try to reproduce this use case on our local application. So it says that, okay, we have to change max value to, let's say, 6, and then slider and ticks were updated correctly, but when we switch back to 0 for max value, then ticks and slider is being updated incorrectly and it shows previous ticks. Right, let's try it out. So let's see how looks the ticks when we have 100s. Okay, those are these ticks. And if we change it to 50, what we will get? Aha, it gets more space between ticks, all right. And if we try to set it to 0, here's this issue. So with 0, the ticks, the space between ticks stays the same like before, and for whatever reason it is active, like strange. It should be inactive, I believe. Like if we like this one, if we have max value 0. Okay, so we have a reproducible use case. So let's try to debug it, and we're going to debug slider ts file. Let's try to find it right here. How it looks like, I mean, the naming. So source material slider, here we go, slider, and it is called a slider ts. All right, so let's try to find it in our source tab. So I will press Command P, and now I can find slider ts file. And thanks to source maps, we have not a compiled to JavaScript version of slider TS file, but we have the TS version, so it looks exactly like a source code, so it is very easy to debug. I would suggest you to set some breaking point, I think, at our input max, because issue comes when we update exactly this input. So I would set up it right here, and we'll see like how it behaves when we change it to null. However, I would suggest you to not have just usual breaking point, because if I reload, this breaking point will be triggered for every slider. We don't want to do it. We would like to trigger this breakpoint when some condition is happening, namely when we have value set to 0. So I will click edit breakpoint, and I will make it conditional breakpoint. So I will say that please stop execution when value means this variable v is equal to 0. So now if I save it, and you can see that I can set it 50, breakpoint was not triggered, but once I switch to 0, breakpoint has been triggered, and now we can check what values has our variables. So our v value equal to 0, our max value has 0 as well, so it's fine. And I think we found the issue. Our percent is none. Definitely it is not something we would like to have as a value for this property. So let's find this method, and so here we go. This is our method, and I will set a breakpoint right. Let's change it to 0. Okay, never mind, but we have value 0 here. This value is 0, so it will be 0 minus minimum value also 0 divided by, I know what's going on here. Yeah, we've got division by 0, and if we divide 0 by 0, yeah, it is none, so not a number. Everything pretty much clear, so we can remove these breakpoints, and let's try to implement the fix. So I will find slider.ts file. Here we go, and let's find this method called calculate percentage. Here we go. So what we can do, we can actually do some simple check, like let's create a constant, and we will move this part right here, assign it there, and we will do some check, like if it's not a number, our percentage, right, then we will return the percentage, otherwise it will be 0. All right, so let's try to save it, and let's check what is the behavior after our change, if it fixes the problem. So let's try it out. So I will change to 50. Our ticks has been updated properly. If I change it to 0, ticks were not updated. But you see, but we fixed this part. So when we have 0, this button is being inactive, which is actually a proper behavior, to my opinion. But we still have problems with ticks, so probably we have another issue with that. All right, let's investigate what we can investigate. Actually, we can debug, we can check what this element is. It is mod slider ticks. And let's go to source code and try to find the template for our slider TS. And what I want to do is to find this element. So here we go. And we can see that there is an ng style where we provide probably some object which comes from this get stick styles methods. And let me pull it down. And something wrong happens right here. Okay, let's debug it. So I will go back to my sources, to my slider TS. I will set breakpoint. Let's do it maybe somewhere here at styles, and let's see what we're getting back from it. So, okay, it was triggered, I believe, because it is a function in the template, so it will be executed, evaluated every time change detection runs, and we hover over this stuff, we trigger change detection, and that's why it was like executed. And what do we have inside? Oh, I think I know what we have. You see this infinity percent for background size. Definitely it doesn't look correct. Let's then check why do we get this infinity. I will make it a little bit bigger, and you can see the tick interval percent is also infinity. So let's check where do we assign values to this property. So I see. We assign value to this property inside update tick interval percent. Okie dokie. We, you know, what do we have? Looks like we have again division by 0. So if we try to pick random number and divide by 0, yeah, we get infinity. All right, then let's fix it. Let's go back to VS Code. And let's find this update tick interval percent. So how we gonna fix it? I would suggest maybe, I don't know if it's the best solution, but it would definitely work out if we could create some private getter for this property, some function which will check if this value is proper one, if it's not a none, and if it's a finite number. So we kind of can assign everything to this property, but when we return some safe number, and everywhere where we use this tick interval percent for proper calculation of the styles, we just, instead of accessing this property directly, we will use this safe getter function. So let's create this function next to probably this property, or no, it's going to be method. So we will do this method somewhere here next to other private methods. So we have get tick interval percent. So we have to return something like if it is not none, means tick interval percent, and if it is finite, all right, then we return tick interval percent. Otherwise we will get something like 0, or well, let's not hard code it to 0, but make it like open for modification, so open close principle. Yeah, and we will provide some fallback, and we will say that by default it's going to be 0, and we will just like use, instead of 0, we will use this fallback, and we have to replace everywhere where we use this function or this property tick interval percent. So let's find where we use it. This is here. So let's replace it with our new function, and also we will do it right here. Okay, it looks fine. Let's try to save it, check if our fix is working, and then we'll do some little refactoring. So I will go back. Let's try to mute breakpoints. Okay, let's change it to 50 and ticks were updated correctly. And oh my god, what? Okay, so one more time, change to 50, everything updated correctly. Now we switch to 0 and ticks were updated. Great. So what we can do now, we can do some refactoring, yeah? Because first, what we have to do is to slightly extend first method we modified, how it's called, calculate percentage, yeah, because we check it only for none, but also we can get the situation when we don't have division 0 by 0, but we can have also some integer divided by 0. So here could be also infinity. So we have to also check if it is a finite number. And we check our percentage, and if it is a finite, then everything is fine. But we use the same check in two places. If we have a look at this first and the second check, we see that this is the basically the same stuff. So I would extract it into some function, and here if you scroll down, you will see that in Angular material components you can find some utility functions here after the component itself. So we could create also additional function, right? And extract those logic into this function. So let's do it. I call this function isSaveNumber, and it will take some value, which is a number, and then we will return. So it will just check if the number is safe for calculation. And yeah, let's drop some comments here next to this function, which describes what does this function. Like check if number is safe for calculation. Cool. Now what we have to do is to replace our repetitive code with this awesome function. So this is the first place where we have to do this check. So I will utilize this function, and we have to do it also right here. And we check if this percentage is safe number. And last thing, I would add probably for our getter function also some description. So like it returns do fallback. Yes, now we can save it and test our final solutions. All right, reload, and let's try to change to 50. Ticks updated properly, back to 0, and everything is fine. And if we go back to, let's say, 30, ticks has been updated properly. So we fixed the issue, and now the most interesting part, most exciting one, we have to write some tests. But before we start to write tests, I would suggest you to run all the existing ones and check if we didn't break anything here. So how do we run tests? This information was inside dev environment md, and here you can find yarn test command, and we have to provide some target, and the target could be the name of the component or module we're going to test. So in my case, I have to run yarn test slider like that. So let's run it, and it looks like everything passed. So we can start to write our own unit test. So let's find our slider.spec.ts file. Here we go. As you can see, there are a lot of test cases here. You can investigate this file later, but I think this describe section should be okay for our test case. So I will open this describe, so you can see there are a lot of already like predefined elements for us, test component, and so on and so forth. So I will scroll down, and there, after this last unit test in this describe block, I will add my new one. So it should properly update ticks when max value changed to 0. Here we go. Now we have to provide a callback. And our test will consist from two kind of steps. In the first step, we will set up some default configuration for our slider component. So we will set up minimum value to 0 and maximum value to 100. Then we will dispatch mouse enter event for our slider in order to update ticks. Then we will check if styles which are responsible for drawing those ticks are proper for this kind of setup. Then we will, in the second step, we will update our maximum value to 0. And again, we will dispatch mouse enter event for our slider element. And then we will check if those styles has been updated accordingly. So let's try to configure our test component and set min property to 0, and then we will set the max value to 100. Okay, so now we have to call detect changes for our fixture. Here we go. So then, as I said, we're going to dispatch the mouse enter event, and there is a helper function called dispatch mouse enter event function, which takes as an argument slider native element, which is predefined actually in the describe block. You saw it before somewhere here. Here is the slider native element, so we can provide it here. Then we have to detect changes one more time. And after that, we say that we expect that styles for this concrete setup has been properly applied. So we expect that tick element style background size, I believe, should be equal to, let's have a look what it should be. Let's try to hover over it, and we see background size should have 5% and 2 pixels value for this concrete setup, exactly what we have in our test case. So I will place this string right here. And then we also expect that ticks element style transform should contain, and now let's quickly have a look which exactly string should contain this transform property. And it is translate x 2.5%. All right, so let's copy it, paste it here, and with that, we finished with the first step. As I said, we set up like basic configuration for our test component and check if tick styles were properly applied. The second step would be to update our max property from 100 to 0. And then we have to again detect changes. After that, we again dispatch mouse enter event in order to update ticks, right? And after that, we do similar check, but with some different values. So I will place it here. And if we have max value 0, instead of 5%, we should get 0%. Because as you remember, the bug was that we got infinity percent right here. Now it should be 0, and translate x should be 0% as well. So now we are done, hopefully. So let's save and check if our test successfully passed. And we failed. Let's try to figure out what is wrong actually with our test. So we have the next case. Expected 6% and 2 pixels to be 5% and 2 pixels. So it looks like the problem somewhere here we have, in fact, we have 6% and 2 pixels, but we expect to have the 5. And I think I know what the issue it is, because definitely it is because we have different configuration for our test component and what we have currently right here. Because let's check what is inside our test component. We have step 1 and tick interval 6, but for this slider we have, let's have a look, what do we have here? Slider called demo HTML. Here is our min-max slider, and first we see that tick here is set to 5. Let's try to revert it to 6 and also set up step to 1. Now we should have same configuration, so I will save it, grab proper styles for the test, and I will revert then slider demo HTML back. So let's try to reload everything here. And now, you can see that we have 6% and 2 pixels. So everything should be correct right now. So let's get back to our test case, and I will replace this string here, and also we have to adjust translate x. Translate x is equal to 3%. All right, so I will replace it here as well. And now we can save, and this test should pass this time, hopefully. Yay, our test is working. So I can revert actually slider demo back. And also we could, what we could do else, we could check if our test works indeed, if it's not false positive. So we can revert our slider TS changes back to, what we had before, and check if our test will fail if we try to run old code against our new test. And as you can see, test failed. We expected that. Let's see the reason. It is because we expect 6% and 2 pixels should be 0% and 2 pixel. This is correct result, so I can revert back my slider TS file. And the last thing we have to do is to create a commit, push it to our forked repo, and create a pull request from our forked repository to the official Angular material repo. So Let's do it right now. What is important to mention is that you have to follow some Git message format, and you can find it actually inside contributing MD file. So let me close all those files first, and I will show you it somewhere here. And here we go, commit message format. So I will open it also here, and we will use this template in order to build our commit message. So first of all, we have to define the type, and the type might be either fix or fit or perf for performance, or it's revert. In our case, it is a fix, so I am typing fix. Then we have to say in which package and scope we did this change. And in our case, it is, oh, by the way, we have already example. So our package is material, then slash, and I did my changes inside a slider, right? Then I have to provide some, how it's called, subject, yeah? This is just a short recap what this commit does actually. And I will define it like this. So let's make it a bit longer. Ticks updated wrongly if the max value, or better say not value but property, changed to 0. Then we have to leave a blank line, so let's leave it. And then we have to insert the body. It is more detailed description for our commit actually. So here I will leave description like what we fixed and how we fixed, and then we should provide again blank line, and inside the footer we should say which issues fixes this commit. And in our case we fix, let's have a look what the number of this issue, it's this one. There should be hash in front of it. Here we go. Our commit message is ready, so we can commit our changes and we can then push our changes, as I said, first into our forked repo, and then we will create a pull request. Cool, my commit is here, so I can push my branch to my forked repo. And now the last thing we have to do is to create a pull request. So let's navigate to my forked version of components. There you can see that GitHub already suggests us to create a pull request, and it looks like we have restriction in the name, so let's say like that. Fix material ticks updated wrongly if the max property 0. Okay, it should be fine. So we can remove this part. All right, check it here. So we do pull request from our branch to master in Angular components. Our text message looks fine. So we just click create pull request, and pull request has been created. Automatically was added the reviewer, and now we should just wait until we get some feedback, and maybe we should redo something, but hopefully not. And if everything fine, it will be merged anytime soon and released with the some future release of Angular material components. And after some time you might get a notification regarding your pull request, and I got one. So let's have a look what is inside. So you can see that it was reviewed by Chris Beto, and he suggested some improvements, and namely what he suggests is that instead of introducing the new private get method, it would be better to do the check which we did inside a get tick interval % method. it would be better to do this checks directly inside this update tick interval percent method, which actually makes sense. Yeah, maybe I have over-engineered things a little bit, and I already hear that some of you already saying that I knew immediately that we had to do it like Chris Beto suggested. Okay, guys, feel free to send your better pull requests to Angular components, and our community will only benefit from it. But I did as I did, and it is actually great that I got this suggestion, and it is a great chance to show you what you should do in this case, which most probably will happen to you if you do your first pull request to Angular material or Angular repository. So let's redo it and then push our improved solution. And before we start to implement our solution, I would like to mention that it is some time already passed, right? And new commits arrived to the Angular material, but our forked version doesn't know about those changes yet, and you might see such a message which indicates that your master branch is behind the original one. So you can see that we are 38 commits behind. If you want to synchronize those changes, you have to click here and fetch and merge changes from the original Angular component repository to your forked one. So once you do this, you can pull these changes in your VS Code, and such a way you will get the latest changes from Angular material into your local computer. All right, perfect. So inside contributing MD file, you can find actually steps you have to perform in order to update your pull request with suggestions which you got from Angular Material Core team. And here are the steps, and I'm going to skip recording of those two because you already know how to work with the source code, how to do commit, you know about commit message format, you know how to run tests. So in order to keep this video shorter, I will cut these pieces off and I just show you how to do this last step and how to rebase master branch into yours and how to push the changes. It is pretty much easy. Basically, you can see it is just a few git commands. So let's get it fixed. All right, I'm done with my refactoring, and now I can provide some Git message following the proper format. Once I did that, I have to go and fetch changes from Angular components, because it looks like I said, but I didn't do it. So I fetch and merge changes from Angular components into my forked version. So then if I go back to the terminal, I have to update my branch by running git pull, or I can actually click this button and I kind of pull latest changes, and now I have to rebase them into my branch. So I will do the command which we saw in the contributing, and namely this one, git rebase master -i. So once I enter this command, you can see that we could reward, edit our commits, or squash. We don't need to do anything with that, so I just click start rebase, and then we have to then we have to do git push -f. So once I do that, it should properly update my pull request. Here we go. So now we can go back to our pull request, and you will see that there are two commits And this, my new commit has arrived. Oh, this is actually the first one, sorry. This one has been arrived and our changes are there. Alright guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was interesting. I hope I could motivate you to start collaborating on Angular Material Library as well. The only one thing I would like to ask you is to share this video as much as possible, because I want that more developers know that it is not so hard to fix some bug or introduce some small feature for Angular Material Library. The more developers contribute on it, the better library becomes, and the more we enjoy to work with this tool. So please, this is the only one thing I want to ask you. I'm not even going to promote any of my courses here, so you can take this video and without any problem embed it on your website or share in social media as you want. Otherwise, I wish you a productive week ahead, stay safe, and see you in the next video where we will be collaborating on Angular documentation. See you there.